wasn't higher than I was supposed to be, but the walls froze.
Our next guest is a member of the Minnesota House of Representatives. She represents District 42B and is the Assistant Majority Leader of the House. She's also a deer hunter, an experienced deer hunter, but she has some concerns about getting children into the outdoors, and also is recently been introduced to bird hunting, I believe. Let's welcome into the conversation Representative Jamie Becker-Finn. Representative, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. The dog, the puppy has a bone, so hopefully she won't be interrupting me while I chat with you. So.
It's always wishful thinking, and it always goes the other direction, just based on our own experience.
I figured you guys would understand.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Jimmy, if somebody comes to the door here and knocks in the morning or just makes a noise, and sometimes there's 5 or 6 dogs in here, it panic erupts, and there's nothing I can do about it. So you have been a lifelong deer hunter, correct?
Yes. Yep. Nope. So I grew up northern Minnesota. I'm actually up in Cass Lake right now. We're gonna work on deer stands later today, and get ready for the firearm season. So, it's something rural Minnesota, you take that firearm safety training at age 12, and, I've been tagging along with my dad since I was able to walk, basically.
And I'll bet you've got a plethora of memories that go back to deer hunting that will probably live with you for the rest of your life, too.
Exactly.
You had mentioned, are you recently a bird hunter, becoming a bird hunter too?
That is correct. I did grow up, occasionally tagging along for partridge hunting. Up north here, we call it partridge. I've always been a dog person, and I always joke that, maybe someday I'll get into bird hunting, and then I'll have an excuse to get more dogs. I participated in the governor's pheasant opener, and got to go out pheasant hunting for the first time, and just love it. Actually, my husband's out. Going to be heading out for turkey later today, so.
Yeah, you are right about when you get to the Northwoods, and this is true where I grew up in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. Grouse is a word that doesn't mean a lot up there, but if you say partridge, then everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. And my grandpa always said, "I'm gonna go pat hunting." He always called them pats, but partridge hunting is the Northwoods vernacular for grouse. And I don't know when that what the geographic or the population line is where that changes to grouse, but you're from the Northwoods if you call it partridge.
Exactly.
What was your impressions after your pheasant hunt?
I loved it, and the most fun thing about it and was that I was with the group that was with the Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and it was actually her very first hunt of any kind whatsoever. Ooh. And she's a good friend of mine, and it was just really cool to be there with her, walking through the field, and the excitement of what you're going to see, or what's going to happen, and she loved it as well. And so it was really meaningful to be with, I think, especially an adult for their very first hunt of any kind whatsoever. And so I just really proud of her. I think sometimes it's hard for older people to admit that, I don't know how to do something, or, just getting used to everything.
And I know that's true. We've said that for a long time here on the radio show. But it is accurate, and oftentimes you're asking for information from somebody in a retail place that knows less than perhaps you do. But yeah, it is difficult. But I know that you have been instrumental in passing some legislation. I think it was last session called "No Child Left Inside." Tell us a little bit about that and your concerns about it.
Yeah, so we did end up getting that one across the finish line this spring. So No Child Left Inside, that was just the catchy name that we gave it. But what it is funding to set up a grant program to provide environmental, ecological, natural resource-based education and recreation programs for kids. And that definitely could be hunting and fishing, but it could be, other kinds of, science-based, outdoor activities, just learning more about nature and being outside. And so we have the phase one is rolling out, right now, the mini grant program, and, that, application, the first day you can start applying is this coming Wednesday. And so, really glad to be on today and kind of get the word out, because it is a program that we're hoping to kind of, we're hoping that we get, in addition to Pheasants Forever and Ducks Unlimited and all the kind of regular groups that we hear from, but as well, maybe folks who haven't, stepped into this space before.
And what's the ideal kind of application? What's your vision when you wrote this legislation for the kind of event that would get funding?
I guess I didn't have one, exact idea, but I think, one of the goals, and it's in the legislation, is that you're maximizing the number of participants, and you're also trying to reach kids who otherwise would not have the, opportunity to get these kinds of activities. So, and I think, no matter what part of the state you're talking about, that's likely going to be, kids who come from family with fewer resources, and, maybe their parents can't afford to, travel to the southern part of the state to go pheasant hunting, but, we have lakes and, all kinds of parks and everything, available throughout our state. So we're really hoping that we've got, people get creative, and come forward with some good applications.
Case in point, when I was teaching for 20 years, I took hundreds of kids fishing on Lake Minnetonka, and I remember one in particular time when you're talking about kids and not having access to the outdoors. I had one little boy come with me, and he was from more of the inner city setting. And he came with, and he was in my boat, and he walked down on the dock of Lake Minnetonka and looked out at the lake, and he looked back with wide eyes at me, and he said, "Mr. Hildebrandt, is this the ocean?" And that just really rung true to me, how much we have taken for granted and the youngsters have lost in the state of Minnesota. So I applaud you also. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. No, I hope that it's, and if this program had existed when you were teaching that class, maybe you could have applied to get some funding to help pay for the transportation or, some of the equipment, to get those more kids out there.
And any teachers listening, take that to heart, because the funding for transportation is so imperative, and it's difficult to justify in the settings of educational systems today. So take that to heart and keep this in mind. It's called No Child Left Inside. And our guest is Representative Jamie Becker-Finn right now from the Minnesota House of Representatives. Representative, when we're looking at these kinds of things, and also the youth deer hunting season is taking place as we speak, and I am told within the chronic wasting disease headbox collection sites there are a number of specimens being dropped off, so I'm guessing the kids are having success. But that's exciting also. The chronic wasting disease is another thing that we really need to be concerned about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we were able to get some changes in the laws last session, but it really is just one, kind of the first step. This it really is a disease crisis. They did have it. There's been at least one positive so far this season. I don't know whether it was a youth hunt or archery or, what it was, but there was one positive already, in the CWD zone, down in the Preston area already this year. So, we all need to be paying attention to this.
And also with chronic wasting disease, I think that the hunters are the ones in the past that have been footing the bill for the fighting the disease too, and I think there was some money appropriated in the legislature this past session.
Yeah, that is correct. We were able to appropriate some additional money to the DNR so that they're not pulling all of those funds from the account that comes from our license sales. And the other thing that we were able to do, because there certainly is a connection with anywhere there are deer, there is a risk, or any kind of cervid, there's risk of chronic wasting disease. And so, we also, the fees were increased for, people who farm or, have, captive deer, to help pay for that as well, because that was also, state funds were being used to pay for those extra inspections and go check out those facilities.
You were on with us, I want to say like 4 months ago, talking about the legislative proposals that you had related to CWD, and one of them that sticks in my mind is kind of a double fence for those deer farms. Did that get passed in the last session?
Unfortunately, no. The pushback from the people who own those facilities is that would be too expensive. And so, but we were able to get double gates. Unfortunately, a lot of the escapes that happen at these facilities are kind of human error. Mm-hmm. And so they're in the process of, making sure those facilities now will have double gates. And then the other kind of big thing is that if folks were paying attention to what was going on at the Crow Wing County facility, there was a person who had positive CWD and was not depopulating. And then we eventually ended up with a positive in the wild, less than a mile from the fence line of that facility. And so we now have in law that when there's positive chronic wasting disease at your facility, that there's a mandatory depopulation of those likely infected animals.
That's a step. I mean, you're right. There needs to be so much more, and I hope the public realizes that, I've talked with people in parts of the state that don't have CWD yet, and they're very concerned about it, but an inadvertent carcass disposal, just dumping it in the back 40 or in a ditch or whatever that is tested positive, would potentially spread CWD very easily. And those are things I hope that people take into consideration.
Yeah, another piece of that is that we did pass the adopted dumpster program, so the DNR will be facilitating dumpsters where you can dispose of those carcasses more easily without having to pay anything additional.
Once again, before we're out of time, Jamie, the No Child Left Inside legislation, give us the deadlines, and is the application difficult, very confusing for people that are applying to complete?
So you can go download the information right now. If you just Google No Child Left Inside Minnesota, DNR, you will find it. It's actually easier for me to tell you that than try to explain the whole long.
Yeah.
So they'll start taking applications this coming Wednesday at 9 a.m. and it'll sort of be a first come first serve, although they'll be trying to make sure that we've got things geographically balanced and that we're meeting the requirements of the law. But I actually worked with the DNR to make sure that this is a really easy application. It's literally 2 pages, and most of it is kind of checking boxes of what kind of program it is. We intentionally made it really simple because we don't want people to think, oh, I need to be from some large nonprofit with a grant writing person in order to do this. It's meant to be accessible for everybody. And then there's also a phone number you can call with the DNR that's listed on that website with the application if you have questions you're not sure how to answer part of the application.
If the funding is depleted in a short time and there's a request for more funds, would that have a difference in reallocating money next year?
I think, it'll kind of depend on the success of this first shot at it, but I'll certainly be bringing it back to the legislature. And I think, if we're ever able to demonstrate that we're reaching kids, and especially reaching kids that we weren't reaching before, I'm hopeful that folks will continue to be positive and supportive of this idea.
Excellent. Representative, thank you so much, and have a great time working on deer stands today. That's kind of fun.
It is. We've got our trail cams picked up a couple bucks, big bucks in the area. So now, my husband and I are both calling dibs, and
who wins that dibs debate?
Well, there were two of them that are at least 8 points, so I think we can each have one.
Nice. So. Well, good luck this season. We'll definitely want to talk to you again and see how it goes.
Yeah, sounds great.
Thank you. That's Representative Jamie Becker-Finn, and I am dead serious. Teachers, if you know a teacher out there and they're looking for funding to do something, maybe it's a science class, maybe it's outdoor education, maybe it's a trap team that would like to go hunting. No Child Left Inside. Google that and get the information you need, because it could be real special to some youngsters. You never know when you light that fire.
I just put the link on Twitter. So Bob St. Pierre on Twitter, and it's right there for you.
We'll follow along that chronic wasting disease thumb line, and, because it's important, and Representative Becker-Finn mentioned the Crow Wing County. We'll be talking next with the lead person that's heading that up. And more information is not a bad thing, because you need that. And if you get it and somebody else doesn't, please pass on accurate information. That's a key. Kelsey Lashar from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources is next on KFAN Outdoors with Bob St. Pierre and Billy Hildebrand. We'll be right back.